Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and tonight we're going to talk about bezel rings and why you want one made out of S7 tool steel. When it comes to bezel rings, we wanted to do something very different. It's very important, obviously, from a durability standpoint that your weapon light's able to take a hit. One of the things that a lot of people don't necessarily think about is if you've got this gun in a real-world setting and, heaven forbid, you drop it, whatever's hanging outboard of that weapon, right, outboard, is going to take that hit first. So we wanted to make sure that the light itself can survive that impact, but most critically, that bezel ring is probably going to be the recipient of the actual impact. So if it drops, these guns tend to be front heavy, right? They'll go down like that. More real world implications here. You could be jamming it into a barricade. It could be hitting a car door. If you're working on a vehicle, getting in or out of a car, you may actually be pushing it into a car for stability. Lots of reasons that you want this to be very, very durable. So when we were designing the REIN light, we very quickly built on the previous success of the Owl, and we said we don't want to go with aluminum, even though the body's aluminum. We wanted to go with something more robust, and that S7 tool steel is very, very robust. We looked at 7075 aluminum, we looked at different types of steel, and at the end of the day, once you cross that threshold and you start talking about steel, there's no reason not to use tool steel. So we chose S7 tool steel, and we heat treat it to between 53 and 55 Rockwell, so it's very, very hard. Just to kind of give you an idea, that's the same material that they make jackhammer bits out of. So this is an impact tool any way you cut it. And then we black nitride it, right, to plate it so that way it doesn't rust. It's very, very corrosion resistant. And as you're about to see here, what we'll do, so I'm just going to unbox one here for you and kind of walk through it. It's also replaceable, right? So in the event that you manage to crack it or break it, it's very, very simple to unscrew that, put a new one on, and go right back to it. In fact, it doesn't even have to come off the gun for that to happen. So not only is it very durable, but it's also replaceable. Now, just to get right into it here, we're going to drive some nails into a 2x4. Now, I know some people are going to watch this video and they're going to say, I didn't buy this flashlight to use it as a hammer. You know, if you wanted a hammer, you'd go buy a hammer. That's a good point. I mean, we all own hammers, right? So why are we doing this? Well, we're just doing it honestly to demonstrate the capability and to prove exactly how robust this system is. You're not going to see a lot of other flashlights be able to do this and survive. And the reason for that is the nails that you're going to drive are obviously made out of, you know, steel, iron, not aluminum. And 6061 or even 7075 aluminum tends to lose when it goes head to head against steel. So what we're going to do here is we've got our S7 tool steel bezel, and we're just going to get this set up for you. So just pulled this out of the box, unbox that a little more, and just so you can see this thing working, I'm going to get it set up real fast. So like the other video showed you, first thing you're going to do is you got to get your battery jack set up. So battery goes in, head goes on. At that point, again, you can hear that battery rattle, so then you just twist your battery jack around until you create that tension. Just like that. Rock solid now. And your tail cap goes back on. Make sure everything's tight, especially for what we're going to do. Just like that. Good light. Okay, so this is the fun part. It hurts us just like it hurts you to watch, but it's also fun. So we're going to do it. All right, and just to prove that the light works, here we go. I'm going to drive this for a minute, and then we're actually going to drive a few more nails with it and hang tight. Okay, so we just drove one nail in. I stopped just short of actually nailing my 2x4 into my bench. We're gonna do a couple more. Nails have been driven into the workbench, and obviously we've kind of proven that you can do that. Not that you should, but I think it makes everybody feel a little bit better knowing that their light still works. If it were to hit the concrete, or like I said, impact anything in a real world situation, we don't recommend you use it as a hammer, but it does work. One of the things that I wanted to actually show you now is we'll bring the cameras in close here, and we'll actually kind of assess the damage, if you can call it damage, because it's pretty much unscathed. Now, when I was hitting this, all four of them, mind you, what I did not do is I didn't spin it around, so all those impacts were actually located right there. And I think if the camera does a good job of picking it up, you'll see that off-center hits actually hit the aluminum, and you can see where it dinged that up a little bit. That's my fault for just missing by a fraction there, but the overwhelming majority of those hits were actually on that S7 tool steel. And again, at 53 watt Rockwell, I mean, it wins. If you can come in tight on the nails, that's the other interesting thing, is, let's let it sit for a second. You can see where that tool steel was pretty devastating to even the metal that makes up those nails. So it was definitely winning that battle, as it drove 4 nails all the way through the board. You can see where I put holes in my workbench here. Pretty impressive, and like I said, it's not something that I would recommend you go out and do, but it's absolutely something that should help you feel a little bit better about the light. Just knowing that it can absolutely take it. And again, if you did manage to break it, you just unscrew it, swap it out, and go right back to work. So pretty simple there. You'll also notice, speaking of the bezel ring, that the crenulations on the bezel exist. They're subtle. We didn't put big sharp daggers on this thing. We did not want that. I've been jabbed too many times by that when you sling a weapon, or it'll snag your car seat. It'll do things you don't want it to do. But there's some texture around that bezel. Again, there's an aesthetic value, obviously, but there's also functional value. It'll help you dig in. So if you do need to drive this thing in to, say, a door frame, or anything that you might find, a tree, anything that it would resonate there, it's just a little bit more grab for that too. So not a super complex topic, but when it comes to, again, the metal selection, why we did what we did, why we take the time to heat treat this thing, and then nitride it, the proof's kind of in the pudding. We do it for a very specific reason. And as you can see, and as the camera showed there, very, very minimal damage. I mean, half of that probably just almost buffs out. That nitride plating is very, very strong, and obviously the light still works. So, so there is your bezel ring. Okay, so now we're going to break some glass. It'll be interesting, I promise you that. So again, what we're going to try to highlight here is not so much the glass failure. I'm just going to smash this until it breaks. Once it does, I'm actually just going to show you how to properly clean out that reflector. Again, if glass breaks, there could be some debris. We got to clean that out. And then also how to replace it. So let's get to it. First thing we're going to do here is that iPro. So with that said, light still works, and game on. And again, these are direct hits on the glass. I don't know if you can zoom in and see, but I don't see any impact or damage or even a scratch thus far. The other thing too is this is 3mm glass. It's low iron. Pushes a lot of light through it. Just so you guys know, it's thicker than anybody else we've seen. So it's another reason it holds up the way it does. Oh, there it goes. Okay, we killed it. Finally. Light still works, so that's good news. I was driving that nail, by the way, into the workbench. So, you've got a broken lens now. Took a minute, but we got there. So, to actually swap this out, if this were to happen in the field, let's say, again, you drop your rifle or your rifle takes a hit. Oh, I can ditch those, I guess. If that happens, you need to be able to change it out quick. So what you would do here, in this instance, let's say you broke this one, is you would just unscrew your light head, right? And then go to work on it. So again, you don't have to take it off the gun. To highlight that and to actually give you the example here, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to unscrew that. Set that off to the side. So again, you've got your broken glass and some debris. So all you're going to do is you're going to take your bezel ring and you're going to unscrew it from the light head. Be careful, broken glass. And then just get rid of all the debris. So you can see the O-ring fell out there. So hopefully the camera can come in tight. You're going to see, in this case, the reflector did take a hit. So I think what had happened was when that last impact or two, however many times I did that, drove through there, the head of the nail actually did damage the reflector, but it still works and it's not going to be a concern in this case. But you will see some glass fragmentation in there. So the best way to do that, if you have the ability, is to use some compressed air and just blow it out. That's what I'm going to do here just to demonstrate it. Now, again, if you're at the range or in the field, you may not have that capability. If that's the case, you're just going to empty it out as best you can. If you can get any sort of air or anything in there, great. One thing you should not do is do not use any sort of cloth, no wipes, no alcohol, no fluid. Anything like that is going to damage it. That would void your warranty. What you've got right now is the light head at its most exposed, so be very careful with it and be aware of that. Once that glass is on there and it's sealed up, it's impenetrable, or damn near. But in this case, you do not want to get water in there, you don't want to get anything else. So you're just going to clean it out as best you can, like that. And then, since I'm about to use compressed air, I will put on my eyes again. So all we're going to do here is one at a time. You can see, I think, some glass fragmentation in the threads. So I'm just going to clean that off. That was easy. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of air into the reflector, same concept. Just like that, and that's done. So hopefully you can see there, that is as clean as that thing's going to get, especially given the damage it took. And then the threads are now clear as well. So your O-ring, in this case, this would technically be reusable. I wouldn't recommend that. Once you get a new piece of glass, we actually give you a new O-ring, so just junk that. And then you're going to put a new one on. So I'm going to clean up this table here, and then we're going to go ahead and do this install. Okay, so we just destroyed a piece of glass, cleaned it up, so we actually have a workspace here so we don't get shredded by that. So when you buy a replacement kit, you're going to get a new piece of glass, you're going to get a new O-ring. So very simple part. So all you're going to do is you're going to open that up, drop that out. So the first thing you're going to want to do is grab your O-ring. Now, this is a custom-made O-ring that we manufacture. It's got two sides to it. So when you generally think about an O-ring, you think about just a standard round tubular shaped O-ring, right? This is not like that. So if you look at it carefully, and the cameras may or may not pick it up, there's actually a step in one side that actually engages the upper light head to help create that seal to make this thing waterproof. The other thing this does is it is a vibration dampener, and it actually takes shock. So one of the reasons we survived the way we did there was that glass is supported. It's not just a piece of glass sitting on a piece of aluminum. So what you're going to want to do is place that very carefully. So you're going to look for that step in the O-ring, and that side's going down, right? And you're just going to set it right on top, just like that, nice and level. And then you're going to take your glass. I would look at it, make sure it's clean. You can actually use Windex or alcohol or something if you really want to clean it well. For this case, we've been handling this, so it's not a big deal. But just wipe it off a little bit, make sure she's good. And you're just going to set it right on top, center it as best you can. And then drop your bezel ring on. Thread it down. You'll hear it start to engage. You'll start to feel that O-ring compress, right? This is not a situation where you need to gorilla grip this. As soon as you start to feel that O-ring compression, like that, and then you're just going to feel it kind of hit a wall. At that point, you're good to go. So if this was on a rifle, just for demonstration purposes, all you would do at that point is put it back on, tighten it down, and go back to work. So there you have it. That is the bezel ring, why we did what we did with the S7 tool steel. It's a discussion about the glass and hopefully a poignant one. And it shows you also how to replace the glass should you break it and get back in the fight. Okay guys, so that's it for today. Very much appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to check back. We got a lot of really cool stuff coming up. We're going to be talking about all the products. We're going to be doing more fun stuff like this. And just need you to like and subscribe and click all the buttons you're supposed to click down there. We will see you next time.